Hi everyone and welcome to my mixed media channel. It's Karen here today. So today I felt like doing a page, well it's actually the last page in my journal, and I'm using some Jane Davenport things. So I've got a mixed media pad there that Jane brought out a little while ago, so I don't think you can get it anymore, but it's full of Jane's artwork, so it's great for collage. So I've pulled out some greeny blue paper because I'm heading for a kind of like a undersea theme is where I'm going. So that's why I've picked out the blues and the pretty greens in these papers. I'm just ripping them up and tearing them and gluing them into my art journal, and I'm using my golden soft gel medium that I have, and I'm putting it on quite thickly because these pages are actually quite thick. It's a little bit heavier than normal copy paper, I should say. So I'm making sure that I'm using plenty of glue to glue them all down in with. So while I'm doing that, I'm looking for some other bits and pieces to glue in, and I've got some old book here, so I've just ripped up a little page of that to add in a little bit more text. And I've got some of Jane's napkins that was left over from another project, so I decided that I'd use some of that as well. So I'm just gently trying to glue that in as gently as I can. Because it's so thin and my brush is a bit harsh, I have managed to rip it as I'm trying to glue it down in a couple of spots. But in the end you can't really tell, so it wasn't the end of the world. Oops. There's that bit that I ripped, so I'm just pulling that bit off, making it look a little bit better. Now this pack is a pack that I bought off Etsy. It's a collage pack. I'll put the link in it into the description box below so that you can check it out if you want to. It's from a lady in South Australia, so I've been hunting around for old bits of pieces of book and things for ages, and I can never find anything, and I found this pack on Etsy and I thought, you know, that's just what I want. So I snaveled it up. It's got some pretty cool bits and pieces in there. So I think I'm finished with the collage now. So now what I'm going to do is give it a quick dry. Well, as dry as I can, because the pages are actually quite thick. So to ensure that all my glue is nice and dry before I start adding some more colour in with my watercolour there. So I've got the Jane Davenport glitzy paint palette. I'm going to start off with that one first. So the reason I picked this one is because it has loads of blues and greens, and you know, it's kind of an underwater palette in my eyes. So I'm just adding in some colour there, and I had a little bit too much, so I'm just sort of wiping back the excess a little bit. Just trying to get the nice greens and blues happening, but it's just not quite working for me. It wasn't working out how I really wanted it to. So I'm going to get out my other paint palette here from Jane. It's the Brights set. I really like the blue in this one. It's a much brighter blue, and then there's the pale green and the other green as well, which works in really nice. So I'm going to dab that around, and it's starting to look a little bit better for me. I'm going to give that bit of a dry. And while I'm drying it, I like to move the puddles of water around with my heat gun. I like how they blow backwards and forwards over the top of each other, and you get these cool little rings and things happening. Different puddles and different lines, and it just creates a little bit more interest, I think. Well, I really like it. So I'm just drying that off, thinking about some of the next things that I want to do. Now I'm just adding in a little bit more pink Now, in my napkins, I had that little bit of pink on the left-hand side, and it's like that really sticks out. So I need to help blend that in a little bit more. So I've added in a little bit of the Ladybug pink, which is in the Brights palette, and some of the more blue as well. And where the pink and the blue mixing together, they make a really pretty purple mulberry colour. So I've done that, and that just helps tie in those little bit of pinks into my page, even though it is mostly an undersea theme that I'm going for. I just like the little bit of extra pink and purple in there. Some of these puddles are quite large. It's taken me quite a while to dry them. So yeah, just trying to get them dry. And of course, because there's so many different layers in my collage as well, it does take quite a while if you do wet it, and it soaks all the way through. So trying to get it dry all the way through does take a bit of time and a bit of effort to get it all done. I'm just about there. It's just one little spot there. Okay. So now I've got out my big Jane Davenport binder, and I'm finding my Narwhal stamp, because I seen someone else use it the other day, and I thought, oh, that looks really cool. I really like that. I think I might use mine. So that's what I've done there. And I've also got a it's a Dina Wakley stencil. It's a brand new one, and I haven't actually used it. And it's like, oh, I must use that stencil. I must use that stencil because it is a really nice stencil. So I pulled it out today. And the other stamps that I've got here are from Tim Holtz. It's the mark making sets. So it's set 1 and set 2. And the ink that I'm actually using is a Jane Davenport one, and it's a hybrid ink, and it's called Beluga White. I love this white. It's the best white ink pad I think I've ever had. It's just crisp. It doesn't water down. Yeah, it's really nice. So the paint that I've got there is also from Jane Davenport. That's what's it called? I can't think what it's called, but it's a really pretty green. I was looking for a darker green as well, but there wasn't one in my Jane paints. So I'm just stenciling through the paint through my stencil with a little bit of cut and dry foam. It's a really cool foam if you haven't used it before, because it's foamy on one side and it's quite solid on the other. So now I've got the darker green, and it's actually from Paperartsy, and this is a chalk paint. And I've put that onto my stamp using the flat side of the cut and dry, and then stamped it into my book. So you can also use your stamps for paint if you haven't thought about that before. The only thing with the Paperartsy paint is that it is permanent when it's dry, so you want to get it off your stamps as soon as you can. So my underwater seaweed there is looking pretty cool with the pale green and then the darker green over the top. So with my Narwhal stamp, I've just inked it with black Squid ink from Jane Davenport. That's also from the same set, so it's another hybrid ink. And I'm just giving it a quick dry in between. So I've got my Exhale stamp there, and it seems to have missed out a little bit of the H in the middle of the word. Yeah, it looks like a lot more on camera, but it's actually not that bad. So I've got my Inhale, Exhale stamped on there now, again with the Squid ink. And I've got my Jane Davenport finishing line pen, so I'm just going to fill in those little bits where my stamping quite a bit missed a little bit. So a little bit on that H and a bit on the narwhal's back. And now I've got my new paint pens from Jane Davenport. These are the Storytime paint pens. So I've got 2 colours there. 3 colours actually. So the light green, the turquoise and the purple. And that one there is the Golden Age pen, also from Jane Davenport. So I'm putting that on my horn and a little bit around the outside of my fish. So he looks a little bit sparkly. And I also put in a little blue dot from the I can't think what they're called pens, but they're from Jane Davenport as well. So now I'm just looking for a quote, and I got my phone out and I'm scrolling through Pinterest, and it's like I really want some kind of quote that's under the sea, maybe something to do with breathing or whatever, but then I found this one. So I'm just going to write that in. First of all, I'm going to write it in with my food ball pen. I really like this pen because it just works over everything. And I'm going to give it a quick dry so I can go over it again with my Jane Davenport finishing pen. So I've got the big brush one here. And it says, "The sea, once it casts its spell, holds one in its net of wonder forever." I just thought that was sweet. So I wrote that in there. So I'm just going over it again with a finer line in my finishing line pens. And finally, I'm going to use a little bit of Posca, just a little bit on the left-hand side, just to create a little bit of a shadow. Still working on getting my shadows right. I'm not quite putting it in the right spot, I don't think, all the time. But it's okay. So the very last thing that I'm going to do is add on some little gold dots, again with another Posca pen. And this is the last thing that I do. I'm really pleased with how my page turned out. So in my gallery here, I've got a few up close pages where you can see in more detail what I've actually done. So there's the narwhal and my quote and some of the stamping there with the stenciling and the stamps over the top in paint. Close up there, the stamping. It's so pretty. I'm so happy with it. So thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video today. I hope you've enjoyed it. So please like and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. Thank you. Bye.